What is up, everybody? What is up? It is a historic day in LSU University athletics history. A historic day because LSU just hired Will Wade back to the program. The native son, as you know, basically you would call him, someone who wanted to be a part of LSU as much as anybody, who really wanted that job for life, who gave everything for that job. And then we know what happened. He was fired. He was fired at the very tail end of a very long, kind of ridiculous persecution effort by all of college basketball to basically point and single out Will Wade as the only, you know, corrupt college basketball coach in a very dirty sport. Let's be honest here. College basketball, more than any other sport, when you're talking about money, when you're talking about, paying players, under the table type of things like that, college basketball takes the cake. I mean, let's be real here. College basketball is absolutely the worst when it comes to paying players. And so Will Wade was doing nothing different from Mike Krzyzewski, nothing different from what Bill Self does, nothing different from what Roy Williams does, nothing different from what Jim Boeheim does. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But where Will Wade screwed up with is something that I kind of something that I identify with in my own career, where you challenge the masters, you poke the bear, you say, look at my works, let them speak for me, but I'm also going to speak for myself. Let's fucking go. The gangster is back. The gangster is here. And kind of some swagger, some pizzazz, some zest to what you do. And it challenges the elderly dinosaur way of doing things. It challenges the status quo. It challenges the invisible handshake between, say in my career, like kind of like establishment figures and the media. Whereas Will Wade was kind of a challenge to that old guard of college basketball coaches for casting a light, shining a big light on the entire sports activities, under the table activities. Because everyone knew, okay, wow, FBI, all this stuff is, everyone's going after Will Wade. Well, they're going after Will Wade like that. It must be, something else to it. And this sport is a dirty sport. And that's why. And everybody knows it. College basketball, dirtiest sport of them all when it comes to the history, paying players, going behind, going under the table, some devious stuff. I mean, it's all been done in college basketball, even more so than college football. But why why this is so important to me to bring Will Wade back is not only because there was a wrong that needed to be righted as far as bringing back a guy who belonged at LSU, bringing back a guy that should never have been fired at LSU, in my opinion. I think if you held that strong with him for that long, you held that strong with him for that long, you were in the foxhole with him for that long, why couldn't you hold out for a little bit past that Pat 40 article? Maybe what it is Scott Woodward felt lied to by Will Wade. And when he felt lied to, he could not continue at, LSU basketball cannot continue with Will Wade as it was because of that lie. Maybe that's what it was. And when I say maybe, I'm going to say I have information that's what went down. But you should have rode the storm out with Will Wade. Will Wade should have been honest. Will Wade should not have been so sloppy in how he paid the players. He should not have been so casual, blatant, outrageous with it. But I didn't see anybody, any mentor figures putting their arm around Will Wade in that moment and saying, "Hey man, this is how you needed to navigate this. This is how you need to swim in this stream. And this is how you can survive while thriving and being you, being yourself, but never caving in, never giving in or whatever, but also understanding what you have and building it and actually not letting being caught up in that storm take you down or deviate your path." And man, when Will Wade was fired, you had so many people saying Will Wade would never coach college basketball again, that Will Wade would never be blah 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 blah. And then you had some people saying, "Well, yeah, he'll coach again, of course, because Will Wade's too good of a coach to not coach again, but he's not going to make it at high level college basketball again." They all said it. He will not make it at high level college basketball again, Will Wade. Then the amount of these people who said it, and I got to get some receipts up here too, because there's some outrageous stuff that was said today. Outrageous stuff that was said today by some of the biggest luminaries in college basketball, and it's absolutely embarrassing, especially when you know who these guys are, where they played, the teams they represented. It's not impressive at all. It's embarrassing, actually. The whiny, bitchy, moaning, just angst because LSU did something. They got their guy, and I hate Will Wade, and that story is going to continue. We thought we killed that story. We thought we cut the cord on Will Wade. We thought we ruined that guy. We thought we buried that dude, right? We thought we finished him. No, not even close. In fact, LSU always wanted to hire Will Wade back. They understood why they had to ride out the Matt McMahon caretaking storm. And then Will Wade had to go to McNeese. And what did he do? He made that team an NCAA tournament sensation. An absolute sensation of a team. And then he goes to NC State, kind of gets the bigger job, does it with honor, does it with class, goes to NC State, and he actually takes that really shitty program and actually sharpens, polishes that turd a bit up there. But what's just infinitely embarrassing to me is the fury, the absolute fury over Will Wade's return to LSU, and specifically the LSU are the brand, the program, the athletic department that was able to pull it off. And you know what I say to that? Cry more, bitches. Seriously. You can't be any more embarrassing than this. They want to win. I mean, should we not have hired Will Wade back? Should we not have hired Lane Kiffin? Should we not have hired Kim Mulkey? Should we have, stayed the course? Les Miles is still our head coach in football, with Brian Kelly as his assistant. Like, what do you want LSU to do other than disappear and die? Because it's not just about Will Wade here. It's also about a disdain, an open hatred, a contempt for what LSU sports, what the state of Louisiana means and what it is. Because LSU teams are often legendary. And they often kick the absolute ass out of a lot of these blue blood kind of teams, programs on their way to doing it. You know, we massacred Ohio State in the Superdome. A team that had gone to back-to-back title games only to get massacred in the title games. Oklahoma, they were basically a dynasty, but really a dynasty at losing national title games more than winning. They won one with Bob Stoops, but then they lost like 4. So like they were a dynasty at losing title games. But LSU, completely dominated that game. The score should have been way higher. Offense had a pretty poor day for LSU outside of Justin Vincent, but defense was just so freaking dominant that Oklahoma could do nothing. And then, of course, against Clemson, a team that was about to win back-to-back titles. We're on a history-making, winning streak. I think it was like 38-game winning streak or something like that. And LSU snaps that with a very decisive 20-plus point win after, being down. And they were an established kind of pseudo new blue blood. Clemson was at that time because they had been there and done that so many times. They were established at this point. They were the ones who could take Alabama's scalp, And then 2019 LSU take Alabama's scalp and then crown it by taking Clemson's scalp. LSU have always embarrassed the teams of some of these kind of these kind of figures who have open disdain and hatred for LSU, and their friends. If they're in the media, they're friends who coach those programs. And so to see LSU throwing around so much money, getting Lane Kiffin, getting Kim Mulkey, getting Jay Johnson as your baseball coach, just an absolute menace to the college baseball world, Jay Johnson is. And now you bring Will Wade back to the program he belongs. The program where he belongs. I mean, I understand their hatred. I understand why they hate us, because they ain't us. And that's what this is about. That is what this is about. They hate LSU with a fiery, fevery passion. You know why? Because they are not as bold, as defiant, as badass, as just the aura of LSU, of guys like Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Paul Skeens, Tyrann Mathieu, Patrick Peterson, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Shaquille freaking O'Neal, Odell Beckham Jr., Pistol Pete Maravich. I mean, we can just go on and on. Billy Cannon, just one LSU legend after another, luminary that really not only made their mark at LSU, but just as an icon even after LSU. Culture-defining people. Doesn't get no bigger than like Shaquille O'Neal, someone like that. Pistol Pete Maravich. Joe Burrow. Now Jaden Daniels. This is what LSU is about. And this is what these people hate. Is because when you get men, leaders of men like Will Wade, like a Lane Kiffin, these type of people, the fear is just going to, it gets out of control. The fear goes, they get this wild fear. You know why? Because they're terrified. They know what LSU can be when they have the right coaches. They've seen it. They've seen it obliterate their teams. But this type of stuff from like Jay Bilas is embarrassing. Let's get this on the screen here, because this was like, what? And the amount of people who referred to Will Wade as like a prostitute and a hooker and use that kind of term today was just crazy. It's just like, wow, okay. So we hired someone and suddenly they're a prostitute. Like, his, like what team do you root for? Okay, they hired this guy and this guy who did this, and I mean, like Kevin O'Sullivan at Florida. I mean, like that's just one name of like a guy who's like got infinite amount of scandals. Like, let's just don't talk here. And NC State, Ole Miss, these type of teams that are going crazy at LSU lately. I mean, I don't even usually you don't even see me reference or discuss Ole Miss fans and their hatred towards LSU because it's not even a story to me. Because like Ole Miss, you haven't won shit, and the only time you were gonna win shit was because of the guy we hired. So shut the fuck up, you know. But this is embarrassing right here from Jay Bayless. Okay, breaking news from the goat Pete Nakos and then Joe Tipton, who is like the goat with basketball, with like college basketball and stuff like that. Like that guy breaks news incredibly well. Like that guy, I followed him before he went to On3. But when On3 hired him, I'm like, what a damn good hire by On3. Like they knew that guy, he had the hand on the tap. But him and Nakos report Will Wade's going to leave for LSU. And Jay Bayless, whiny Jay Bayless, who played for a coach who bought everybody, a coach who paid for players constantly, never was going to be caught, never was going to be punished for a damn thing, Coach K. We know why that is. But you know, it was he was never going to be punished. Never going to be caught. But Will Wade, yeah, he's faced some stuff, but he's had this major comeback that has taken years. And people like Jay Bayless before were these voices, these sanctimonious voices, him and Pat Forey, these sanctimonious voices that tried to bury this guy before. And then because he gets a big job, Jay Bayless says, "Hey, NCAA, us more about players that don't show loyalty, don't want to go through adversity, and how player movement impacts stability. Tell us more about tampering and poaching. The coaches portal is always open. Funny how silent coaches and administrators are about that." Oh my God. The hypocrisy, the rank hypocrisy of this statement is unbelievable. It is not just because I'm an LSU fan. If I was just covering this as a like straight of the road, like a Crane and Company sports show where they have they're fans of teams, but they're not like really representing the sports show as like a fan. They're just kind of they're covering everything. If I was running a show like that, even I would be disgusted at this because the hypocrisy is so rank. The hypocrisy is so disgusting. LSU hired Will Wade. There was always going to be interest there. Heath Schroyer at McNeese, LSU hire him. All these things kind of fall into place. Obviously Schroyer was going to be talking to Will Wade. And you want there to be a tampering and poaching scandal about how LSU got Will Wade? What are we talking about here? We are living in a world that is like on the verge of World War III. We just figured out our entire elite class is basically like a bunch of pedophiles or pedophile protectors. College football is on the verge of like breaking into like a few different like major kind of like super conferences, and who knows what that will look like. Hopefully it doesn't do that. Hopefully we can keep college football together, but the future of sports riddled with gambling, all this stuff, every sport I mean it's very tenuous. We want to protect these things. And so to actually be counterproductive and throwing around this bullshit about hiring a coach where there was obvious interest. He obviously wanted to come back to LSU. Everyone knew that he never wanted to leave LSU. If Heath Schroyer was hired by LSU, it would be one phone call away to hire Will Wade, and he'd probably be coming back to Baton Rouge, right? And who wouldn't? And LSU were going to wait for Will Wade. They waited for Will Wade. They hired him when the moment was perfectly for, NC State were done. There was no conflicts. There was nothing for people like you to whine or cry about. And still you find something. Still you bitch and moan. Still you cry because it's LSU getting something done. LSU looking like they're going to be a dominant player in college basketball once again. Because I'm going to tell you one thing, Will Wade, he doesn't even need that much, resource of backing for himself to really do some work on the portal trail on the recruiting grind. This guy's going to make it work. And we don't usually talk college basketball like this on LSU Odyssey, but it infuriated me to read stuff like this. Let's try and find more about this shit because we saw it earlier, and I'm just like, are you serious? Are you serious? The amount of people who cried and moaned absolutely sounded like absolute whiny bitches because Will Wade was hired at LSU. Yeah, there's us. I mean, we could probably just look at Will Wade's statement that he posted and probably find like a billion just whiny ass stuff. Well, this is mostly LSU fans just going nuts. I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. Ashley, always gotta like her stuff when I see her stuff. She's the best. Tiger Vibes, my guy. Stan, I like him. Forever LSU. Am I following them? Yeah, I like them. Tick. I fucking love you, Tick. Or is it Teak? Hold that Tiger. And then, of course, the Go team. We absolutely love those people. Um, so it's basically been the general. The general account is back. And I love how this woman, he's coming home. You should have never been let go to begin with. Go fucking Tigers. That's why our fans and Will Wade are going to be perfect because this is a big ass fucking offer, like all this stuff where Will Wade does sound kind of mafioso like that. I'm sorry. LSU, that is what we're not pro organized crime at LSU, but there is some gangster to us. And if you're not down with that, and so Will Wade, perfect hire for LSU. He's been able to rehabilitate his image. He's been able to find his way back. And really, this is all the work that he did. McNeese, I'm glad they hired him, kept him in the state of Louisiana, working with the youth of the state of Louisiana, bettering the youth of the state of Louisiana. I mean, look at what he did for a young man like Amir Khan, bringing him onto his staff. And we were talking to Amir Khan just a few hours ago, and Amir was saying that he's happy that he's back where he belongs, and that he's not instantly going to LSU to work with Will Wade just yet, but he said he's focused on McNeese right now. So we don't know if Amir Khan will be following Will to LSU just yet, but we'll see. We'll see. What I'm trying to find some of the BS that I've seen. Oh God, listen to this guy. It's just like I'm just Boo Corrigan. That's the guy's name. Boo Corrigan. Well, boo hoo 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 hoo. Like you knew Will Wade was not gonna stay forever at NC State. Did you really think he was gonna be staying there forever? I hate to break it to you, man. He wasn't. But Will Wade, is he gonna ditch? Is Will Wade gonna ditch LSU for somewhere else? I'm not so sure about that. I think Will Wade is happy to be back home. Let's hear some WBRZ um, filming with some students reacting to Will Wade. So who gives a shit? Like the attendance will pick up. It doesn't matter. Like I think Will Wade and the fact that the fans know he's going to give a damn about putting out the best product possible on the court is going to bring in the fans. I don't think any of this like, oh, it's going to affect it. I think that was kind of a weird comment. But there's so much whining and so much crying and so much bitching and moaning and yes, this response okay, I will say this. This response was dumb from Will. Like just just don't just don't even answer it, you know? Huh? Right there. I hate that type of bullshit. Is that job open there? Huh? Like, I love Will Wade, but that's bullshit. Going after the female reporter, she probably looked small in the moment, like, and he probably felt like he could pick on her, and that's bullshit to me. Because I think if I ask him that question, maybe he thinks, oh, this guy's some no name or whatever. But I don't think he's going to talk to me like that. I think he kind of goes after her because he thinks he can in that moment. And is that job open? Huh? I don't know why she couldn't just say, yeah, it is. And it's obvious why I'm asking you this question. Like, whether he ended up at LSU or not, if he stayed another year at NC State or not, it would have been obvious why she's asking that question. And Will knows it too. You don't have to be a dick to a media person who, maybe you could think, oh, she's trying to get the hits and clicks. Are you trying to win games? Because like that's the job is to get people interested in what you're doing and actually make it a good product. Make it accurate as accurate as you could possibly do. Get it from the closest source as possible to the information, the actual subjects. He's trying to win games. So I don't like him being disrespectful to the female reporter like that. I think that's bullshit. And I think it's bullshit to lie about it. I think you should just like I love what we're doing here at NC State. That's all I can say. Like something like that. That's what I've heard some of the best saying. I love what we're doing here at NC State or whatever. And not really addressing it, saying something while saying absolutely nothing. I think that would have been fine in the moment. Instead, kind of chose that route. I don't really think that was very tasteful, but I doubt he really gives a shit what we think. So, Mhm. That's great analysis. Holy shit, I'm following these guys right now. That's exactly the fans never wanted Will Wade to go anywhere. Point number one. Point number two, LSU has the alignment, have the people, have the connections to the past and for the future going forward that like just it's not a no-brainer for Will Wade. It's a if you don't do this, you are a fool situation. It would be like career sabotage not to take this opportunity to go back to LSU and to do this. And just more crying about what LSU sports is going to be for the next long while. You heard it right there. No SEC coach wants him in that conference. You know why? Because you have to fight for every damn recruit. You have to fight for every single player. You have to fight and tooth and claw every single game. And Will Wade, college basketball, the new NIL era. I'm telling you guys, Will Wade is going to dominate in that new landscape. And LSU should have never fired him. He lied to Scott Woodward. It appears, or that's at least what Scott Woodward would allege. And it was just not. He just did not have the people behind him at the time to really give him the full support he deserved. He did not have the financial backing that he deserved. LSU basketball was not being taken care of. It was all about, oh, we've ignored women's basketball so much that we have to really pour into that. And you can hold it down for us, Will, okay? Now we got to pour into baseball because Paul Maneri drove that ship into the ground. How can you ruin that powerhouse? Well, we got to build that back up. We got to go get Jay Johnson, and then we have to go spend $100 million on Brian Kelly for God knows what reason at the same time as well. And then Will Wade became almost like an afterthought at the time. Like you'll keep the ship going with basketball. We don't have to worry about it. You're good for like a second round, or round or Sweet 16 exit. Just like by osmosis. And one of these years are going to get us to like a Final Four. We can smell it. You're good. And then the pressure to fire him became too much from all these establishment voices, and LSU's people at the time bought into it, believed in it, canned Will Wade, and it was a horrible, 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 horrible decision to fire him. I will always believe in that. It's not just some like some stupid, haven't really thought about this, just like blindly pro Will Wade. Yeah, but like this is a guy who gave more of a damn about LSU basketball than any coach since Brady, probably. And you bring that guy in, and what does he do? He turns this program from nothing into a contender that, like, there's a few years there where LSU actually disappointed going out in, like, what, the Sweet 16 and stuff like that. Like, that's actually, those were disappointments because of how good those teams were and where they should have ended up. Some of those teams were facing tough draws in the tournaments as well. Point is, man, is Will Wade's going to bring LSU basketball back to where it should be. It'll probably take time. Who cares? You have on campus right now, Lane Kiffin is your football coach. Lane Kiffin is the head football coach at LSU. I mean, are we on acid already just with that one? Will Wade, who we fired years ago, and it was a dream for fans like you and I that we would hire Will Wade back at LSU, even after all that's happened. You have Kim Mulkey, who's already won a championship as the women's basketball coach, already gotten close to another one. You got Jay Johnson, who's won 2 national championships and in entering what, his 4th season. So yeah, 2 championships in 4 years. This is something that I would be afraid of too. I'd be afraid of LSU too. I would hate LSU too if you had to deal with all of these coaches. And I don't like that they said best coaching trio in college sports with these 3 while leaving out Jay Johnson. What the hell is that? The best college baseball coach in the country is left out of this list, and it's just talking about a trio. Not on my podcast. Jay Johnson must be involved in that discussion. Not only what he's accomplished, what he's done, what he means to LSU. You have to keep him, and this is what I'm worried about. Keeping the band together, because there's only so much money to go around, right? You're going to really need to bank on 2 things. Major renewed fan interest in basketball, like in every sport, just being just driven up to a fever pitch, which it has. There's more interest in LSU athletics this season, going into this year, than I've seen probably in any of the years I've covered LSU outside of 2020, because of what we did in 2019. But that was even hampered because of COVID and all this BS and everything. But still, even after COVID decimated the amounts of fans that could be there, until that Mississippi State game happened against Mike Leach in week 1 and we got decimated, allowed over 600 passing yards, like until that moment, everything was looking great. And then the wheels fell off and it all blew up. But there was a lot of, I mean, the fan excitement. Miles Brennan and Terrace Marshall and Eric Gilbert and John Emery Jr. and Ty Davis Price, all these guys, they're gonna go off, and we're gonna be right back in the college football playoff. There was so much excitement going into the year, so much delusion going into that year because of what we did in 2019, that they thought, basically the band's still there. You've lost a few key pieces staff wise and on the team, but you have so many great players on roster, and this is what's expected. Nowhere near. Outside of that and the excitement of like 2019, the buzz of 2019, this is the most excited. This is the most invested. This is the most intensively like bought in, absolutely loving this, absolutely fully invested in this, absolutely dialed in, gonna be at every sport, every home game type of vibe. Season tickets are being sold out. This is the most I've seen the excitement. It's been off the charts. It's been outrageous. And this is the thing, LSU is the stage that deserves it. LSU is a university that deserves this type of excitement, this type of the stakes always need to be this high in every LSU sport. It should never be, you have a season like we just saw for LSU basketball. That should never happen at LSU in any sport. Whether that's softball, whether that's soccer, whether that's tennis, whether that's swimming, whether that's gymnastics or football, baseball, men's and women's basketball. LSU should be always competing for titles, always everything at stake, championships at stake, careers at stake. And I think that's the thing right now is I think this is the moment where LSU have the perfect roster of coaches to just build from and just let these guys cook. Let them go to town for, keep these guys as your coaches, as the leaders and the ambassadors of your programs for the next 5 years, as long as, their track record continues to be backed up at LSU. You know, if Will Wade suddenly just like all the tracks go off and he can't do what he used to do, if Lane Kiffin is just like nowhere near the coach that he was at Ole Miss suddenly as he is at LSU, like obviously results and performances and off-season wins, like having the number one portal class like Lane Kiffin delivered, those type of things have to continue. But I'm not going to be, expecting, begging, demanding championship after championship from every single one of these programs immediately. But what I do expect is that growth is going to happen season to season, that development is going to happen season to season. And you know what? You're seeing on roster with the college football for LSU football right now. You're seeing that this roster is not just a bunch of mercenaries. These are guys that a lot of them are going to be coming back next year too, unless they have unbelievable seasons this year and are eligible. But there's a lot of guys that LSU are going to be growing with for the next few years, and you're going to see the same with Will Wade and how he approaches and attacks the portal and the recruiting trail. And I think you're going to see LSU athletics that can really harness this and make this happen. The one thing I will worry about is there enough money to go around? Well, this is where the revenue has to be there, and you've got to have the diehard fan interest, like we're talking about. But then I think I forgot to bring up the second part of that was donor money. You're going to need private donor money. It can't just be, pure, tuition fee money. Government funds, subsidies that are going into the university. None of which really on the record, on the books, can be used NIL wise, I believe. But you have to have such buy-in and such excitement that not only is the common fan going to be buying every possible ticket they can to be there, but that the people with the biggest checkbooks in town can't wait to write you another check because my God, you guys just did this and this and this. I want to invest in this. I want to be a part of this. I want to help you guys win championships. We got a comment here from Jordan Haddad, Crazy Graphic. I'm not sure which one you're referencing, but if it's the fact that we have Kiffin, Mulkey, Will Wade, and Jay Johnson as our coaches, it's man, this is something special. I've been wishing that LSU would hire Will Wade back, and I always felt like, because I was always told not as long as Scott's athletic director, and I thought Scott Woodward would be athletic director for like life. I really did. I saw no reason why LSU would fire him or why there would be a need to fire him until Brian Kelly and that massive contract really reared their ugly heads in the worst possible way, and there was no getting around what needed to be done because it was so bad. You gave Brian Kelly a contract that was unfair. He didn't earn it at all. Brian Kelly. I love doing that. Bending it off the neck. It's like sounds so demented and so weird, especially when you hook it up and you put some delay and some craziness on it, some fuzz or some one of the big muff. Sorry, you put a guitar in my hands, I just get distracted. I gotta stay away. I gotta stay away. But yeah, it is so embarrassing to see the amount of hate LSU got from so many different quarters. I mean, I'm sure Dickie Vitale said some bullshit. I'm sure all these guys had something to say, something to cry about. LSU hired Will Wade. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're afraid of LSU, but we're coming. You cannot stop this train. This is already in motion. This is something that you cannot control. And when LSU decided to hire Will Wade once again to come back and circle the wagons, they made a move that they knew was going to set off a firestorm. We don't give a damn. We're here to win this. And we don't care how any of you feel about it. We don't give a shit about any of your tears. Alabama, you had your time. Georgia, you had your time. A lot of people have their time. A lot of universities have their time. This is LSU's time. I think you can feel it. Maybe LSU doesn't win championships in 2026 in football or in men's basketball. Maybe not in 2027. But I think there's going to be a steady building aim towards greatness here from LSU athletics in a way that you haven't seen in a while. Where you had just people coming up, taking the money, and just absolute taking a shit on LSU. Les Miles, Brian Kelly, people who thought that they were bigger than the university. And now you have Lane Kiffin, Will Wade, Kim Mulkey, and Jay Johnson all as your coaches. What makes me excited is the fact that these guys are all workaholics and that their job, they're not like professional. Hey, I lost a title game. That's my profession. Like these are guys and gals, of course, Kim Mulkey, who win, who have a past of delivering titles. And in Lane's case, I guess you could say he did that more as an assistant, but with some of the most legendary offenses in college football history. And so you can't take that away from Lane at all. Big, big reason why USC was the dynasty they were. Just like you could say with Coach O's recruiting for those USC teams as well, on the defensive side. So there is every expectation that these guys are going to work their asses into the ground, but also that LSU is a destination now. It always was to me. It always felt like to me that LSU was like college football Hollywood. Like there was so much going on and so much to be a part of and so many big time icons and personalities and people you wanted to meet and players, oh my God, I can't believe I got that guy's number. This is crazy. We're talking to this player. Can't believe we did an interview with this guy. I mean, you're starstruck and stuff like that, but then you're not because you're so used to it because this is what LSU does. They have superstars who are their like fourth or fifth string guys, right? That's LSU, baby. And now you've got that vibe returning to men's basketball after a very dark past few years where LSU men's basketball wasn't even on the NIT radar. Not even on the NIT radar. We were on the NOT radar, the knots. We were terrible. And now you give this program the reins back to Will Wade, man. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful step in the right direction. I think this is I just cannot wait to see him sign his first big transfer portal guy and poach him from some team and they lose their shit online. They melt, they go crazy, and how could I do this? But here's the thing I will warn. The NCAA is not good for much of anything at all right now, except for one thing. Going after Will Wade and LSU. That's all they do anymore. They are good for nothing else. They can't regulate the game. They can't monitor the game. They can't fix the game. They can't put in the right playoff format and then just, hammer it home, seal it in. Instead, they're constantly letting people tinker and change and screw around with everything with college football, college sports in general. So badly that you need Donald Trump to pass these executive orders and get involved. Like, how embarrassing are you? That you need the president or Congress to fix your sports? Like, you shouldn't have jobs. The NCAA shouldn't exist at that point. What are you what use are you for? Why do you exist? They always ask the question, does this blank country have the right to exist? Let's ask the question, does the NCAA have the right to exist? Because I'll answer it for you. No. But I'll warn LSU and Will Wade this. That organization is good for nothing except for one thing left. Going after LSU and Will Wade. And my God, is Will Wade coming back to LSU going to piss a lot of people off to the point that LSU will be a target, just like with Kiffin. You brought back, Will Wade, and you have Lane Kiffin on your roster of coaches. You have Kim Mulkey. I mean, some of the most hated, most polarizing coaches in all of college sports, in all sports. And you've got three of them on your roster of coaches for your main sports. That's wild. Oh, Verge Osbury, what a absolute leader this man is. I mean, Verge, they might have to make a statue for you, sir. There's Verge's statement about Will. We are excited to welcome Will Wade back home as the next head coach of the LSU men's basketball program. As LSU fans know well, Will is a consistent winner, a diligent program builder, and a charismatic leader. The Will Wade cult has just begun. With an incredible ability to connect with his student athletes and the fan base, not only does he bring his postseason pedigree and an energetic presence, but he's innovative and strategic at a time in college athletics that requires both. We are thrilled to have Will and his family with us in Baton Rouge again. You know, I think if there's ever been a greater impetus for LSU Odyssey to cover every sport, it's this. I'm gonna try and do as much as I can. I'm gonna try and cover as much as I can. That's why we're talking about the basketball program right now tonight, is because it's so important to me right now that LSU remains at a high level in all facets, every sport, but also doing awesome as a university. And the revenue that these sports are going to bring in, I really hope it revitalizes every facet, every portion of LSU until Robert Mann has to change his diapers because he comes in and goes, "Oh my God, the library is perfect." Like no more of that type of talk, because you're gonna have so much money pouring into LSU, so much success, that there's gonna be no way that those type of things aren't taken care of. Um, that's really what I want for LSU, is just complete prosperity and success here, and sustained dominance, because that's what this program, that's what this athletic department deserves. They've worked hard for decades and haven't really gotten their deserved dues, when we're the second winningest college football program behind Alabama in this century. Not Oklahoma, not Ohio State, not Clemson. You know, LSU. And that should be a point of pride when you hire a guy like Will Wade, that you're hiring a proven winner in Baton Rouge, bringing him back, revitalizing the basketball program. It's only going to help college football. One thing I'm worried about is Kim Mulkey being concerned about the money and the division of the money. I really hope that can be figured out in a I really hope that can be figured out in a way that doesn't make things really difficult and awkward and makes coaches want to be out the door because they feel like they're being neglected. We need to make sure all these coaches are taken care of. Sorry, Beth Torina. Um, but really, you've got to make sure women's college basketball is still being funded to its apex. You got to keep Kim Mulkey around. You've got to make sure Jay Johnson is taken care of. He's been keeping your university alive as like a championship destination during this era of Kelly era, and Matt McMahon era bullshit. Mulkey, Johnson, you got to make sure you keep them whole, in my opinion. But now that you have Will Wade, Lane Kiffin, you got to see a lot of the resources go in their direction too. You've got to see that to begin with. Um, you know what? We're gonna cover these other topics in another video. Day 3 of spring football. We're gonna do that in another one because we've spent almost all this talking about Will Wade, and I think the return of Will Wade deserved it. Not only because the man actually was personally good to us. I know a lot of people he actually was personally good to, and so I'm excited to see him back. Welcome back, Will. I know a lot of local Baton Rouge media people who hate Will Wade and who think, him coming back is a disaster, and who talk a lot of shit on Will Wade. Well, they're gonna have to deal with him and seeing him for the next 7 years at least. And as for Jay Bayless and all these other hypocrites, they hate us because they ain't us. They can't be LSU. They claim they don't want to be LSU. They want to be us. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. They want to be LSU, and they can't be. And so it makes them go crazy. It makes them get jealous. It makes them go nuts. And it's just too bad. Suck that tiger dick, bitch. Oh my God. Everybody, we'll be I think we'll be covering day 3 of spring football later on tonight. If not with a podcast, we'll be doing an article of just the notes from today's practice. We're gonna see what we can get done. Um, if we're not able to get another podcast done, it's because of my kids being here, and it's my kids aren't here right now, as you can see, and there's no craziness going on. I'm able to lock in with you guys, and that's kind of why we really could use your support. Subscribe, follow to LSUODYSSEY.com and help us, because the more that we can get this type of help, then the more time we'll have to really focus on this and hone in on this, because we won't have a 9 to 5 job taking our time, and we won't have to watch our kids so much in the interim, and we won't have to have screaming children running around and that type of stuff. If you really want to help us with that, that'd be fantastic. You guys are amazing for watching. I really appreciate you. It sucks because we had such a bigger, wider visibility just only a month ago. But when our Twitter account was taken, it sent us back from 10,000 plus. I can't even remember how many followers we had. It was like 11,000, 12,000 followers. And everything we posted on Twitter, almost everything, I should say, it got at least 1,000, 2,000 views, and usually it was blowing up. Usually we had a lot of viral stuff that we were putting out there, especially our breaking news and some of our more high profile interviews and stuff. That stuff went beyond viral, and it really pisses me off that a lot of that stuff has people have tried to erase it, I think, by suspending that account. Well, guess what? If you see me posting a lot of stuff from the past, it's not to like, yeah, I did this in the past, I'm resting on my laurels. No, it's because I'm trying to like get it off my phone and back into social media as like a record, a history of what we've been able to do and what we've been able to our track record. Because frankly, I feel like people have almost forgotten who I am in some way. And so we're going to reintroduce ourselves. I'm Lon Phillips Sullivan. I am covering LSU because I fucking love LSU. Full stop. And I want this as my job for the rest of my life. And so thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. And we absolutely love talking to you. And we hope we can do it as much as possible. There's so many opportunities I wish would open up and I could pursue. And there's so many people I would love to work with. There's so many things I'd love to be able to do with this platform or with other platforms. Um, you want to invite on as many voices as possible. You want to explore as many collaborations as possible as well. So LSU Odyssey, we're gonna do all that. Me as a person, I'm gonna do all that. Whether it's I'm covering LSU for my own website or for someone else's. Um, we have no problem with doing that. We just need to be able to provide for our family while doing it. Sadly, like that's just the reality of it. We have to keep the lights on. We have to keep the kids fed. We have to keep the diapers going, all that stuff. There's a lot of things that cost a lot of money, as all of you know. And to do that, we've had to work a crazy job. And so yeah, we would love to do this for a living instead. Maybe we need to get better at this before we can be ready to do it for a living. I don't think so. I think we've been doing this for 8 years at a very high level, and we've gotten better and better as we've gone on. We've learned from mistakes. We've made mistakes. We've learned from those. We've kept going. We've taken punches, responded with, actual triumph in the face of massive adversity, time after time after time after time. When people have doubted us, that's when we win back their trust. When people have wondered the most, oh, he broke this story like a month early before everybody, I'm not so sure. And then a month later, oh my God, he was right. Sometimes the apologies or the credit doesn't come, but history will remember. And that's why we post a lot of the things we are doing as far as like past stuff. Not to rub it in, oh, we broke this story or whatever. It's more of like we need to have that proof out there, because it's been deleted from from at least from X and Twitter, but you can't delete it from the AI. Google AI um, remembers everything that we've done. It's pretty crazy. But everybody, I really appreciate all of you so much. And I know you are as happy and as excited as I am about Will Wade coming back, and just laughing at all of the madness coming around from every college football institution or whiny establishment bitch who is just like, they just can't have LSU being successful. They can't have those, you know, they'll call LSU, people from Louisiana, the worst type of stuff in the world. They think LSU is run by hillbillies and they're uneducated, and all they'll say the worst type of stuff about LSU only to be proven wrong time after time. And calling LSU uneducated when it has like the probably the best engineering department in the country is just laughable, hilarious. But people said LSU were too poor to make this happen. And so they moved the goalposts again. Well, we didn't say they were too poor. We said they were too corrupt. Yep, they're corrupt. They're poaching players and coaches, and they're just evil. It's just like they move the goalposts to whatever will be disadvantageous for LSU. And it's stuff that it's gaslighting, it's bullshit that I've faced in my own career. It's these people think they control you while it's like, dude, you're actually embarrassing yourself and like ruining your own career. And when the time comes, people are going to remember what you said and what you did. That's not really like saying to any one person. That's just kind of saying like, if you do that type of behavior, it will come for you. When I've gone at people, there's times I meet other people and they go, "Hey, you went at this person and I was a friend of them. Why did you go at that person?" And I've had to answer for it on the spot, not even expecting it. And so you can be rest assured, if I go at somebody online nowadays, the last few years, which I very rarely do, but if I do, they deserve it. It's usually some bullshit thing they've said, an outright lie that they've spewed, a complete smear that they've tried to develop. And I will never apologize for calling that out, or for having a problem with people who engage in that bullshit, because we don't do that to other people. We're not sitting out there reporting people's accounts for no reason. We're not trying to get people shut down. We're not talking shit on everyone else's podcasts or saying that we're better than everybody else. We're just trying to do this and do it the best we can, and we want to be part of the community that does it. We want to be part of the LSU media community. We embrace the LSU media community. But if people lie about us and smear us, well, fuck them, and fuck you if you do it. You know how many you know how many followers we've had and then lost, or how many subscribers we've had and lost and then gained them back? Because it's not about, we weren't good enough or we lost them because we weren't good at what we do. It's we lose them because the opinions or the reporting is too close to home. It offends something, a sensibility, and when you tell the truth, you piss people off. That's just straight up the God's honest truth. When you tell the truth, God's truth, when you tell that truth, the real core truth that we all know, you don't even have to say it out loud. We can all smell it. When you say those type of things out loud, people get so mad they want to kill you. And you know why? Because they themselves are so ashamed at being duped or allowing it to happen, or not caring enough or being part of it, that they cannot let you place that reality into their minds, the reality that they have already chosen to deny. And you see that in so many walks of life, but you've even seen that creep into sports media, which I never thought the stakes would get that high. I never thought it would get that wild, but we're here. Incredible work from On3 today reporting the Will Wade story. incredible work from Pete Nakos and Tipton Edits. Tipton is a badass. Joe Tipton, I love that dude. If you want breaking news college basketball stuff, follow Tipton Edits. That dude, you probably already are. I don't even need to tell you this, but I love Nakos and Tipton. I follow those guys. I don't think I've ever seen Nakos make a mistake on a story. That doesn't mean, people are going to do that. I've done that, I'm still learning the ropes, so I'm gonna make more mistakes than others, but um I can't remember him making many mistakes. So like um I have a very good appreciation for some of these people who do this great work. Also, I would have been remiss if I hadn't brought it up, but Wilson Alexander. Wilson Alexander is going to leave the LSU beat, and I don't know where he's going or what he's going to be doing next, but I really wish him the best. I hope nothing but the best for him and his family. He's been through a lot the last year, Wilson, and he's handled it with incredible strength. And he's been someone who's always been nice to us. He's always been really cool to us, and I feel bad because I think someone really worked on poisoning that relationship that could have developed between Wilson and I. Every time I talked to him, every time he talked to me, we had good vibes with each other, and things were really cool. But then I think someone was just talking shit or something, making him not fully um think I was cool enough or something for him to like me or something. But we tried to get Wilson on the show a few times, and we just didn't follow up, or that was kind of us dropping the ball of not trying to keep pushing for him to come back on. But regardless, you probably all know Wilson's work. You saw him probably doing the shows like Jordy Collada show and Tingle and Company and stuff like that. Blake Ruffino's show, he did a lot. AYS Sports, but really wish he would have come on ours and we would have been able to get him. But he won the Ed Ashoff Award as well from the Football Writers from the FWAA. So this is a dude who has pedigree and has really written some cool stuff over the years. I've really liked Wilson's style of writing. It's something that I don't do. I'm not as clean or as polished. What I do is a little more rough around the edges. It's a different thing. At the same time, I learned so much just from reading Wilson's stuff and just from getting a tip or two from him and watching him work. When we'd cover games or practices or press conferences, I would watch how Wilson would work and would always be impressed with how he carried himself and um, how he asked the questions, how he just everything he did. People liked Wilson a lot. He was very well liked. He was someone that on the LSU beat broke a lot of news. He really did, and I really appreciate that he actually credited us with like maybe 7 or 8 plus times where he gave us credit for the stories that we broke, where you're not always going to get that from established media people. You're not always going to get that from the big dogs who maybe don't want to look like, hey, they got beaten to a story. Wilson wasn't like that, and he always gave us credit. There's these guys who've given us credit when we've broken news, and I'll never say a bad word about them. People like Wilson or Shea Dixon or Jacques Doucet, um, Mike Up, Jordy Collada, and his whole crew. There's people who, when we've done this hard work and stuff, they've given us the credit. Like, I just will never say a bad word about them. And it's just I have so much respect for people like that who are in like on these big stages, have these big platforms, these big reputations, but they will acknowledge the hard work of someone who maybe isn't on that same level yet as they are. Like, it's so encouraging It's so endearing, like an admirable tribute to those people. And Wilson is one of those people. He always, that I can remember, gave us credit for every breaking story that we had, and like he's someone who wrote for a big paper, um, and broke news himself. He could have been very competitive about it and been like, nope, not giving you credit, screw you. Man, he always did, and I absolutely have to thank him for that, because that was a big thing for us. And Wilson, I wish I'd gotten to know you more, man. I wish I'd gotten to talk to you more, man. But hopefully we'll see each other on the road somewhere, covering LSU at some point. But Wilson Alexander will be missed from the LSU beat big time, and I really consider him a cool dude and someone who, I look up to in the journalism profession. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Will Wade is back as a Tiger. Will Wade is a Tigers head coach again, guys. This is crazy. This is wild. This is amazing. This is how it should be, isn't it? Go Tigers, baby.